What's going on, guys? We are back doing, I suppose, vlogs. What I was saying in the last video a couple of weeks ago, it still stands, but over December, I've got a fair bit of time off, and Rex has got a fair bit of time off, and we have a lot of stuff we want to get done. So through December, I'm hoping to sort of keep content up pretty consistent. But through January, I'm going to leave my camera with Rex because I've got to go back to work. But Rex has still got some time off over January, so he'll still be doing stuff. So I'll leave the cameras with him so I can keep making content, and hopefully I can still keep trying to get a lot of that out. And then, yeah, probably taper off into the year. We'll just see how we go, I suppose. But anyway, we're back today. I'm going to be heading out to the workshop today. So thought I'd start off a video. Got home. Got a little care package here from DeathClick. So what a good way to start the day. Oh yeah, not bad. Good threads. I do love this. This is great. So anyway, get onto Jacob. Definitely get onto DeathClick. They make some pretty sweet clothes, which are, you know, nice and stylish and good. Just to clarify, guys, I do actually pay for those clothes as well. I don't get sent anything for free. Just that DeathClick had a mad Black Friday sale, so I just bought a heap of clothes because I need clothes. Anyway, so like over the next couple of months, I'm going to be trying to do like maybe a video a day that I'm at the workshop. Obviously, I don't make videos when I'm around here, not doing anything that has anything to do with cars. So while I'm at the workshop, I'm going to try pretty much do a video a day and try and stick to obviously releasing 3 a week. And that way I'm hoping between this month of December and then for Rex through next month. And then I think Rex may even have most of February to do a lot of things as well. He's got a lot of stuff he wants to do. So the channel may be mostly Rex for a little while, but still going to be a lot of content coming out. But I'm hoping that if we can film sort of one video a day that we're there, and then I release it at 3 videos a week, I'm hoping it will sort of continue fairly deep into next year while I go back to work and sort of work out for everybody. That would be good. First things first today, got to go get my trailer from my mate's place, have a catch up with him, and then I've got to head to Dan's and pick up the VL again because there's a bit more work to do to the VL. We are on. I'm so glad the Mighty Falc's got ice cold aircon because it is so freaking hot today. It is disgusting. It's going to be another one of those sleep all day and work all through the night summers, I think, at the workshop, because it's just too freaking hot in the shed to work when it's this warm. It is unbelievably hot here. Really don't like summer. Rex has been shopping again. Get this big girl cranking because it is freaking warm. Move this thing out of the way. So, fairly familiar sight, seeing this thing in the shed. Seems to be living here pretty much at the moment. So for those of you who missed, I suppose that was just a fill-in episode that I did of Liam's R31, a bit of an update. But this thing did end up going on the rollers at Simply Tuning in the north side in Brisbane, and did end up going, I think it went 509 wheel at 20 PSI, something around that. So it made over 500, so Dan's pretty stoked. We're all pretty stoked with it. It's all good. But if you remember from the last time that I made any content of this car when I was actually working on it, Dan does have some coilovers here that he wants to fit, which I didn't get time to fit last time. So that's what I'm meant to be doing at the moment. New coilovers. Also, he's got himself a Defi Advance ZD copy, all-in-one gauge, just like we've got in the Cruiser and in my 31. Just makes things a lot easier having everything all in one. So he's asked me to pretty much wire all that up for him and get that in the car as well. So that's the idea for this week, is to try and get the coilovers on the car and get his all-in-one gauge set up in there, because at the moment all he's got in there is boost and the factory temp. He's got no other gauges, got no oil pressure or anything. I left the oil pressure gauge on it just so it could go on the dyno, and they had an oil pressure gauge so they could tune it at least. But since then it's been sweet, it's been all good. The only other problem he's having with it is on high boost, it is starting to break up. I'm suspecting probably a dead coil or a bung coil, but just on gate pressure, which is about 13 pounds, thing runs sweet. Absolutely mint, so all good. So I was a little bit worried. All I've got as far as mild steel filler wire goes is these two bits, so I'm hoping they're enough to do coilovers. For anyone that doesn't know, the VL, the coilover actually welds to the knuckle, much the way a Cressida, an X8 coil welds to the knuckle, so pretty much exactly the same principle. It's exactly the same thing. So because it's cast, if it was just all mild steel, I'd be happy just to use stainless filler, but because it's cast, I sort of would like to use mild steel filler. But so that's 2.4, which is what I'd want for the amount of amps I'm going to weld these at for the cast. So hopefully it's enough. If not, I might have to go scoot off for a drive in the morning to get some more filler wire. It's annoying because the closest place for us to get it is BOC, and I believe that BOC only sell it in like quite large quantities. Last time we got filler wire from BOC was this massive big packet here, which is like a 2.5 kilo, like a 2 kilo packet of filler, and it was very expensive, and I don't really want to spend that much money on some filler wire, especially mild filler wire, because we don't actually use it that often. But anyway, got to do what you got to do, get the job done. So if I've got to go get some, I'll go get some in the morning. But yeah, for now the plan is to work on this thing. I wish it wasn't so hot, that would be nice, but what do you do? Freaking Queensland summer sucks ass. So Dan reckons he's like pretty happy with the height that it sits at the moment, so I'll take a few photos, do a few measurements, and try and set it back at that height with the coilovers in. Right, I can't believe how insanely hot it is here. I haven't been doing a lot, both sides, just sort of waiting for it to cool down so I can get in the shed and actually start doing stuff. So what I have done is sort of just pick a few places for a few things. So I really want to sort out the wiring tonight and then do the coilovers tomorrow. The problem I have is that to do the coilovers, obviously it's got to be on the hoist. And these coilovers are welded to the knuckle, which means I have to take the knuckle out and cut it, which means once I start on the coilovers, the car is essentially going to be not rolling until they're done. So I didn't want to sort of start on them because I don't believe I've got enough filler wire there. And if I run out of filler wire, it's a bit late for me to actually drive anywhere and get any. And if I leave it stuck on the hoist while it's not rolling, it means I can't get into the door to wire all the stuff inside. So it just creates a bit of a pain in the bum. So what I decided to do is try and get all the wiring stuff in tonight. And then in the morning, I'll get up nice fresh and get started on the coilovers as well. And that way I can get started on the fronts, start welding. If I run out of filler wire, Rex is meant to be coming home tomorrow, so I can maybe be able to get him to get me some on the way, or I can just take off and go get some, and it's not going to be a big deal. So that's my plan. In all honesty, these Defi gauges are very simple to chuck in. They're not very hard. So what I've done is sort of just pick a few spots for a few things. This controller is going to go up on this blank panel. It's going to be taped there, and the actual gauge is going to go sort of up in front of the clock, mounted up to here. Now, this sort of bit of a area you can see along here, that's actually where a lot of the factory lights were, so factory engine light, all that sort of thing. A lot of that doesn't work. In fact, the actual stock speedo doesn't work, and the clock I don't actually think works either. So it wouldn't really matter if I put it right in the middle, to be honest, but I don't know, I sort of just like to keep things like this aftermarket stuff out of the way for in case Dan ever did want to get all this stuff sorted. That way it would all be working factory stuff and the Defi edition wouldn't be in the way. So the monster tacho that he's got will fit down here in front of this empty panel. It'll actually cover that up quite nice. What we'll have to do though is try and make up a bracket because he's lost the bracket for it. So super easy to wire in. It'll wire in the same way that the tack signal for the Defi does. So I just got to find where I'm going to wire that to on the ECU. So the actual control box fits really well nice there, down there between those two trims. Hello, Spiderflin. Spiderflin. And yeah, the actual gauge face will go up there and the little controller box will go there. And it's all pretty simple. One thing I have found is that Dan's going to have the same issue with fuel pressure sensor that came with it that I did, in that the way the fuel pressure regulator is shaped to get the 1/8 MPT into where the gauge is, it's too close to this little lip here, and the actual pressure sensor is quite fat, so it's not actually going to fit in there. So what I'll do is I'll run that wire to pretty much the back of the rail there. There's plenty of room there to fit a 1/8 MPT sort of male to female adapter. So I'll run the wire so it's ready to go, so that way all we've got to do is get an adapter and chuck it in and it's good to go. So that'll be fine. So apart from that, oil pressure is just going to take from the stock place on the block, because there's no oil pressure sensor gauge in this at all, except for this analog one that I've left in here. So that's just going to go in the factory position. I'm going to rob the factory position for the water temp and put the Defi one in there. And that's really all the Defi's going to get. Dan obviously doesn't have any bungs or anywhere to take oil temperature from. That's reliable. So, I mean, what have we got? Oil pressure, water temp, fuel pressure, and then we've got speed, which I have to work out how the square wave works from the RB25 speed signal, because the speed sender is a 2-wire. I'm pretty sure it's just going to be 1 wire to ground, 1 wire to signal. So that should be fairly simple, but I'll work that out anyway. But so yeah, we've got oil pressure, water temp, fuel pressure, speed, tacho, and then volts is included. It reads volts automatically. So that's essentially all that there is. Oh, and boost, obviously. Boost in there. So for boost, I'm just going to remove the little boost gauge that was inside and use that reference for the Defi. And that's going to be the Defi sorted. So the other thing I do use is these weather pack connectors that I've got. So I'll use these, like the 4-pin one, I'll use for the to actually wire the whole system in. It's positive battery, sorry, which is fused with a 4-amp fuse. I've got positive ignition, then you have illumination, so lights, and then earth. So I'll use the 4-pin plug to actually wire it into the car. That way, if you ever want to take it out, it's as simple as just undo the plug. It just makes it so much simpler and easier to be able to do that. So, I mean, that way you just set up a plug with your pigtails on it where you want them to go, get in, wire those 4 in, and then it's just as simple as plugging it in. So, makes it easy. But yeah, I'm going to get to sort of getting this done now that it's cooling down, and I'll report back to you when it's mostly finished. So I don't know if you sort of caught the box in the back, but Dan's actually got the correct one that we ended up putting in the Cruiser, which is different to the one I put in the Skyline, which is actually the much better version of the fake Defi. There is actually quite a lot of difference between the two of them. This version is much better, so I'm glad Dan got the right one because he just bought it. So I'm glad that all got set up. So the proper one, the better one, comes with this large sort of control box, and it comes in a sort of more of a tanned sort of box. I'll show you the box in a minute, but the one I bought came in a darker box, and it came with a very small control module box thing, and there's actually a lot of difference. There's nowhere near as many options. You can't change the actual display nearly as much. Oh, excuse me. So this is a far better design, or far better unit, and I'm glad that all happened because Dan bought it by himself. So they're really good, apart from obviously just wiring in your, like I was saying before with that 4-pin plug, your ignition source, your positive power, your illumination, and your earth. There's not actually really a lot of wiring you need to do. Most of it's all just plug and play. Like this little unit's all plug and play. They all come, like it comes with all the little wires which are already pre-pinned, so they just plug into the back of the unit and all that. So there are a real, like for the price of them, for how much it'd cost you to set up this many gauges, to read that many things, to have everything so simple and nice. I know some people really like the look of having gauges all over their dash. It's sort of beyond me why people enjoy that. Personally, I don't like it. I like simple setups. Really It's just my thing. I like things to be simple. So to have like one little all-in-one doobie that just sits in your dash, nice and simple. And the other thing is it has alarms on it. You can set alarms for different values. So if your oil pressure drops, it'll alarm. It's really good. It's just, I'd definitely buy one. I will be pretty much putting one of these in every car I build from here on out, and have been since we discovered them, really. So anyway, I've managed to tack those two wires. These just sneak through the back of the cluster there, and obviously pulling the wiper controller out and that empty panel, I've managed to be able to feed them down to the footwell, which is easy. So the way this is going to work is it's going to hang off the mount and sort of just hang over that side like so. So it's sort of, you can still see the fuel gauge there. You can still see the clock if you need to. So it's not covering anything really important. It's not covering the panel where all the lights are, which is up here. So if, you know, anyone ever wanted to go through the trouble of getting all the factory stuff working again, this is not going to be really in the way or intrusive of any of that at all. Plus it's really still quite in the way as far as it's easy to see, it's easy to look at. It's going to be really nice. And you can see I've actually mounted it sort of backwards. I think they're meant to be mounted on this side of that little dog leg on the mount, but I wanted to set it further back because this face here is actually here so that your dash lights don't reflect off the windscreen at night and annoy the shit out of you. So I wanted to set it back as far as I could so that the face of this doesn't reflect off the windscreen and annoy Dan at night. So that's what it's for. That's what I'm trying to do. So this is the box I was talking about. This is the color. This sort of quite a bit bigger box, and obviously this lighter color, not the darker color that I got. Sorry for blabbing on so much about the Defi, guys. It's just that I always get questions and a lot of inquiries about the like the all-in-one gauge and what's involved. You know, what it is, what it comes with, and what it reads and what it does. So just thought I'd give you all the information I can. All right, good morning, guys. We're back. I sort of persisted with this thing till about 11 o'clock last night. Wiring's just a pain in the ass. Anyway, I got to a point like 11 o'clock last night where the Defi just wasn't working. And I just cracked the shits and decided to go to bed at that point. So I had them all hooked up to the same point, like the e-boost here, which you can see is working, but the Defi just would not work. I chased it around. From what I could find, it was getting power. Everything was pretty good. But upon some further digging this morning, I found, I'm pretty sure it was this little connector I've put in it. This little pin connector that I tried to put in so you could unplug and plug it in. I believe the ignition one on that is just, it's not contacting properly, and it's been a real pain in the ass. So decided I'm just going to cut that connector out and just hardwire. I'm sick of it. So it's just getting hardwired instead of that connector. I mean, realistically, you can unplug it from the back of the box anyway, so you can just take it out if you need to anyway. So it's not really that much of an advantage. It's sort of just a bit of a waste of time on my part. But anyway, that's all good. So yeah, I'm just gonna cut that out, wire it in. Every time I wake up and I'm always like super motivated, and then I walk into the shed and it is just freaking so hot. Like, it's already so hot. It's just outrageous, and I just hate summer so much. But anyway, you can see the layout of it all, how it's gonna be. So I had to make that little bracket for the taco, and then sort of just use worm clamps to actually clamp it up there. So hopefully Dan's pretty happy with where that's placed. And I reckon it's all pretty good. So just got to sort out this Defi, get it working. I just hate wiring. It's always like this. It's always just a massive cluster explosion of shitness right up until you get to tidy it up. But anyway, so I just ran a new constant battery wire straight from the battery. Most reliable way to do it. It's got an inline fuse in it. So that's for the Defi and for the Monster Taco. The actual e-boost doesn't require constant positive. It only requires ignition positive. So it's taken from an ignition wire that's up under the dash. And then the ignition wire for all the other two are off that as well. The e-boost obviously is fused. I pinched, there was a spare fuse in one of the fuse boxes under the dash that someone's wired into this thing. Sam did get back to me from Whitey's Wiring. He reckons with the Link ECU, easiest way to do it is just to pin the tack, both the tacos to a auxiliary output, and then you can actually an auxiliary output on the Link, and then you can use that as a tack output. So fortunately, I don't have my computer here, so I can't set that up today. Even then, I don't have a pin or a wire to do that. So I'll probably have to try and get one of them off Sam, on Friday or something and sort that out later on down the track. As you can see, like, whoever wired this car, they sort of tried to do it right, but it's still just such a mess. So right, yo, getting to the pointy end of this pain in the bum. So this all works now. So glad that was the problem with the Defi, just that plug. Got the tacho in and working. Got them all wired up to lights. I've even, shut up, bolts are dropping. I've even got them wired up to the factory dimmer. So tacho even dims as the factory dimmer dims. So that's all sweet. So the tachos are going to be wired to auxiliary output, which I don't have a pin for. So like I said, hopefully Sam can do me a solid at some point and whack a pin in there. So that's the green wire I'm just going to leave over in the corner, ready for when that happens. So that's going to be the tack signal for the Monster Tacho and for the Defi. So apart from that, now it's just time to actually tidy up this whole cluster shit fight of wiring. And then, yeah, that's pretty much a lot of the under dash stuff done. I just got to whack the sensors in, plug them into the back of the box, tidy up all that, and should be pretty good to go. All right, we are on, it's all wired in, cleaned it up a fair bit. E-boost has been wired to the solenoid, which I've mounted in the bay, but I have no fittings for the solenoid. Dan is going to sort that out today, hopefully get them to me. So solenoid just sits up behind this coil tower up there, but obviously I need all the fittings for the barbs for the solenoid, and then that has to be set for all that as well. So I've just run the tacho wire, as I said, is this green wire, and this is actually the tacho for the Defi, one of these ones. So that's your tacho, speed, fuel level, and something else, can't remember. And they were going to be worried about the tacho and the speed, so I've left those out just because so they're easy to get to. So played around with the Defi a fair bit, got some fairly decent settings on it, and yeah, this thing is so much better than the one I've got in my 31. You can actually like fully change the color of the backlight as well. Like see how it's a bit orange, you can actually change it from like orange, green, purple, like all sorts of colors. Pretty cool. So very cool little unit. Obviously there's no oil temp hooked up with this one because we don't have a bung in the sump for an oil temp sender, but the provision's always there for later on if ever it comes to it. So it's very cool. The only thing is, just like mine, this one you can only set it on either kPa, kilometers per hour, and PSI, kilometers per hour, sorry, and degrees Celsius, or you can set it on degrees Fahrenheit, mile per hour, and PSI. So it's annoying that they're like, each one is a weird combination, especially for us in Australia. Obviously, ideally we'd like to use degrees Celsius, PSI, but also use kilometers an hour, not miles an hour. So that's a pain, but it is what it is. So anyway, that's more or less this done. All I want to do is get some double-sided tape and tape the e-boost up like so, because you need to be able to push that button. So it's pretty good, not a bad setup, I reckon. It's pretty cool. So time to get cracking on these coilovers now. Rex is on his way home. He's going to bring me some filler wire, which will be here later in the afternoon. So what a job. Like when I started, I sort of started pinning around trying to find wires that I could splice to and flog power from for all this stuff, but because of the way this has been wired, I have no idea what's what. So I figure if I go splicing into another wire, if it blows a fuse or something, I've got nowhere to look, or no idea of where to look or what to look for. So without knowing what anything is, that's why I just sort of decided to just wire everything in from scratch, which took me ages. But anyway, you get that. It's at least it's done pretty well. I know what's there, so I know where to look for blown fuses if things don't work. So that's all right. Anyway, now that I'm done in under the dash and don't need to get into the doors, I can move it back, put it on the hoist, and start on the coilovers. The other thing I need to check is the speed sensor, so I need to get a wire from the speed sensor up in there too. So never bloody ends. Alrighty, got the rears in. They're a bit of a pain, bit different to what I expected, but I'll show you when we get lifted up. But that's I actually already wound them up 20 mil off the spring seats, and they're still that low. So gonna have to go up heaps. It's nuts. So you can see here you sort of got just your shock, and then up in here the control arm you've actually got the spring which sits on an adjustable seat. So the adjustable seat actually does bolt to the traction arm, But I'll show you more when I get it out, because I'm going to have to take them out and make it a bit higher. So you can see there how the spring perch works, and you just adjust it up and down. And that is literally as high as I would be comfortable running this at all. It's still probably, I'm pretty uncomfortable with how high it's running, but see how it looks when we put it on the ground, because I still reckon it's going to be sitting too low. And I've adjusted the shocks to suit, so see how it sits. It's going to be a bloody pain. So this might be a bit of a problem. It's still way too low. That's as high as I'm prepared to have those springs on those seats. So, I don't know. I don't frickin' know now. Way too low. Alright, sorry for not filming very much, guys. It's actually been that hot in the shed that my phone didn't want to film. Just sort of started to quit, so. Anyway, front end's pretty much apart. Just got to cut them up and weld them on now. Alrighty, so I've cut that off with 20mm left, as the instructions say so. And just cleaned up the cast as best I can while I have the opportunity before I press the tube in. Just because cast is very porous, so when you're welding it, you have to make sure it's very, very clean, because when you're welding, the heat and melting it down will drag up all of the crap in it. So while it's apart, it's the best opportunity to really get into that area there, which when you weld the tube in there, it's going to drag all of that shit back up if you don't. So I've run over that with a wire brush as best I can. I've cleaned up the cut just with a flappy wheel. And what I'm actually going to do is just paint that cut before I press the tube on, just to make sure it's sealed as well, because you don't want that to get condensation in there and sort of start to get rusty and break down and get corroded. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'll paint that, press the tubes on, and then after that it's time to clean it up again. Much cleaning, and then look at welding. So it's all pretty simple. All of the instructions come with everything you sort of need. People who've done this with Crusaders know it's the same as doing coilovers on a Crusaders. Essentially, it's pretty much exactly the same thing. So yeah, getting there. Big job, but getting there. Alrighty, final product. Certainly getting better with practice on the TIG. I welded this one at way more amps. After I doing this one, I decided I reckon the other one needed more amps. So this was 130 amps, that was 150. But yeah, pretty happy with how they came out, honestly. They're not too bad. I'm probably a bit biased because they're my welds. Also, Rex is home.
Hey, Rob.
And Dan's here.
Noisy fuck. We're trying to make a movie over here.
So anyway, it's full house now. But anyway, we're getting closer. I'm just waiting for these to cool so that I can paint them. Obviously, because they're cast, you don't want to accelerate any sort of cooling. You want to let them cool as naturally as you can. If you can, chuck them in a bucket of sand so they cool even slower. But it's one of those things where you definitely do not want to shock cool these, because that's when you get cracks and not very nice things with casts. So.
Luckily for us, it's about 1 million degrees today, so yeah, they're not going to cool in a hurry no matter what we do.
Which is annoying, because I've got to wait till they cool so I can put them back in, which is quite a hefty job with the VL, because anyone who has first-gen Commodores probably understands the disc and hub is all one, so you've got to pull the disc and hub off to get it off the spindle, which means I've got to fully repack the bearings with grease, put it all back together.
That's
bit of a job.
Board.
Sorry for this video sort of falling on its face a bit, guys. I just ended up running out of time and getting way too busy. Same sort of thing. Got to get the job done over making the content. But pretty soon, me and Rex will be doing a bit more of our own stuff where we'll be able to do that. It's just that I've got to work tomorrow now, so I had to get this thing pretty much sorted today so that Dan can take it to Lakeside on Sunday. So it's been a big old rush today, and I'm knackered as. Is it? Yeah, it's fucking just bringing it out of the shed, sat it right down. It's literally on the rim. Coilover specky. This thing's unbelievably low in the back. Oh, it echoes. Righto guys, it has been an absolutely massive day. Sorry for dropping the ball with the content, but it just needed to get done and I only had today to do it, so I had to smash through it. And you know, didn't really worry about stuff like stopping and trying to set up camera angles and trying to do that stuff. It's not heaps, but it does slow down the process enough that it would have affected today. So things like that, I just like to get in and smash them out. But like I was saying, me and Rex are going to be getting into a bit more of our own stuff over the break. So there'll be a bit better, I suppose, quality of content to come with that, because we can obviously put a bit more time into actually the content side of doing the work. So hopefully this comes back and it's all good, because we have not much room to go on the seats on the rear. They're pretty much almost all the way up on the seats. So I've adjusted the shocks so that the shock will not drop anymore to allow the spring to jump out of the seat, because that's how close it is. I don't particularly like it, but that's how low it still is with that much of the seat. So it's insanity. But anyway, it is what it is. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. As always, hope you enjoyed, even though the content wasn't that great, but there's a lot of work to do today, and I'm absolutely knackered. It's like 9:30 at night, so I'm ready for bed. I got to go to work in the morning. I got to leave here at like 4:30. So not too keen on that. But anyway, I'll be back sooner rather than later with some more content, because me and Rex are going to be pretty busy doing some stuff pretty soon. So stick around, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you later. What a mess. Mess everywhere. Mess, messy, messy.